Hey, everybody, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien, and I am back with another comic book countdown video, my comic book thoughts on 20 comics from the past that came out in the past few weeks and giving you my thoughts on them. This is still basically a comic book reading diary. I do it for myself. If it's useful for other people, that's fine. It's super subjective, and my responses in the moment, not my well thought out responses to comics, but just what I'm feeling as I read the comics or as I look at them again, as I pick them up off of this giant pile in front of me. Um, Overall, fantastic group of comics. Probably 8 or 9 or 10 that could have been number ones in a way. But I did have different feelings about different ones, so I've ranked them the best I can. The bottom two were ones that I kind of felt like I wasted my time reading them. Starting with at number 20, This Ends Tonight, which is by, oh, that doesn't work, by Jerry Duggan and a bunch of other writers, and art by Jay Lee and June Chung. Kind of all along, I've been saying that I didn't think the writing was as good as the art. If you look at the copyrights to this comic, it's copyright only by the writers. So I'm assuming they paid um, Jay Lee a good chunk of money to be a hired gun on this comic, but I feel like the problems I had in the first two, there's only 3 issues. The problems I had in the first 2 issues really come home to roost here, where the sense of disjointedness and not lack of clarity really come together, so that this last issue to me was super confusing. Lots of cool art still, some cool fight scenes, a lot of weird mist kind of drifting around in some of the scenes. I don't know if that was supposed to mean something. I kind of, my instinct to think with like 3 writers on this and they own all the copyrights, that this is like a movie pitch, but I don't think it's a very successful movie pitch. It's far too confusing. I guess I can see the high concept, sexy girls fighting on one night in Las Vegas. Um, yeah, it's kind of too bad they couldn't pull that off now that I say it out loud. Sexy girls all getting into fights on one night in Las Vegas would be cool. The other book, which I really should remove from my pull list, is Cruel Universe. This is volume 2 of Cruel Universe. I didn't know there was going to be a volume 2, or I might have removed it from my pull list ahead of time. So it was already on the pull list because of volume 1. Um, I do remember thinking some of the issues of volume 1 were somewhat better than most of this modern EC Comics version of EC Comics coming from Oni. They always have fantastic covers. I finally, I keep complaining about the writing, and maybe the writers and the editors need to push themselves harder and try a little harder to make good stories. The art is always good, or has been good for quite a while in here, and this issue is no different. There's great art by Anna Reedman, Claire Rowe, and Cano. All of these stories have great art. Um, but what I've come to realize is I just have to accept that I don't share the editor of this comic's taste in stories. So probably can't even fairly judge them at all. The editor is, I think it's Allison Gronowitz. Um, she's just listed in along with a lot of other people. So I think she's the main one editing it. Or maybe it's Angie Knowles. No, I think Angie Knowles is the production design and Allison Gronowitz. So I just don't share her taste. And what made me really realize that was this issue is the third one that I can recall that has a story about a Elon Musk like millionaire getting his comeuppance. And I thought it was mildly amusing the first time, but it's not really a storyline I'm interested in reading over and over again. So yet again, a sort of high ego, selfish millionaire gets his comeuppance at the end of one of the stories in here. Another story, like the first story, Genocide to Go. At first, I like the art was so cool. but when it came down to it, it was even weaker than the episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where she works in a fast food restaurant, which was one of my least favorite, but it's a similar plot. One of my least favorite Buffy the Vampire Slayer episodes. But that episode was way better than anything in here by my tastes. I know of some people who are enjoying this a lot. So I need to just get on top of it and ask my shop to remove it from my pull list. So starting at number 18, so I put Cruel Universe at 19. Starting at number 18 are all the comics that I thought were good. Escape by Rick Remender and Daniel Acuna, issue 2, has fabulous artwork. I feel like the artwork is even better than issue 1, but that's hard to say for sure. But is Daniel Acuna doing the color also? Art and color, yeah. And the art and color work together fantastically. And it's anthropomorphic animals in World War II, only it's not called the Nazis, and it's not, all the countries have different names and stuff. So he doesn't have to follow history exactly. But it's clearly an evocation of that 1940s era with anthropomorphic animals. Why can't I think of that name? I always have trouble with that word, anthropomorphic. But but the story kind of, like in the first issue, they started with like 5 pages of people just sort of discussing war in a way that seemed very unlikely for them to be discussing war as they're on a bombing mission. And in this one, there's a long flash. Most of the story is a flashback to what this guy's life was like before the war. And although it wasn't bad and the art was incredible, it kind of knocked me out of where we were going in the story. Like it didn't, I don't know. I wasn't quite in the mood for a long flashback in issue 2. Um, and I wasn't that interested in what the character's background was. And and there was a lot of almost cliche in there. So I liked this book, but I didn't go crazy over it. I wanted to love it more than I did just because the art's so great. In at number 17 is the second and last issue of the Hero Trade. I now realize it's the Hero Trade Phase 2 Project Chimera. Apparently there were a lot of backup stories of the Hero Trade in um, different bad idea comics of the past, a lot of which, the bad idea comics are very inaccessible because they limited their distribution because their company's a bad idea. Um, but now I discovered there is a whole trade collection, book collection of all the Hero Trade, and I think I probably will order it because I'm intrigued. I wasn't fully satisfied by this story. I liked the black and white art on the newsprint, and I enjoyed certain aspects of it. I was intrigued, wanting to know what's happening, more of what's happening. Um, I don't, I don't know what I got out of it in the end. So again, that's why it's on the lower end. Although it was an intriguing read, and it is kind of it's an easy read, even though it's got kind of a serious bent to it, let's say. Now, on the other hand, there was a backup story in this about Bunsen Beaver, and I've never seen such unsuccessful coloring in ages. And I think this is on newsprint, and I think the colorist was not thinking newsprint when he did the coloring, if it was a he, when they did the coloring. Where's the credits? The art is by Juan Jose Ripe and Rich Kozlowski, and the art by Ulysses Areola. Um, so who knows whether the art was any good? It's just hard to see at all. The newsprint just absorbed the color in weird ways. So that's too bad. But yeah, it's an intriguing comic. I definitely, for people who want kind of a weirder take on the world of superheroes, if it is the world of super or evil government agencies or some kind of superhero Cold War, perhaps, it's intriguing. Also intriguing, and I'm always curious what will be happening in each next issue of Vanishing Point. Um, I put this in at number 16, is that anthology comic, as in each issue is a one and done story. All of them are written by one of my favorite writers, Mark Russell, or often one of my favorite writers. He's not my favorite writer in this Vanishing Point. And a different artist each issue. This issue had an artist named Ryan Alexander Tanner, and his art was okay. I don't know if it was the right art for this story. It was okay. I kind of liked it, but it had kind of an underground comics or alternate comics kind of feel. Um, but for this super dark dystopian story that we're getting, it's unremittingly dark. um, and I still continue to be like not a big fan of unremitting darkness. So it's a good story, but a little too dark for me uh, to rank really high up in my list. I think last issue from Vanishing Point was the least dark, and I like that one the best. But I still, every issue, every time I want to see what is Mark Russell going to do again with his dark science fiction, which is, I think, the theme of Vanishing Point. Then the Invisible Man I put in at number 15. I liked it a lot. I love the art by Danny. Um, she definitely is one of those artists who does more with less. Um, you can feel that could do. She's really playing with light and shadow and positive and negative, but she can draw anything. I think Danny's a she. Um, and it's it's an intriguing but not super gripping story telling sort of the life of the scientist who will become the Invisible Man at the end of the story. I think the story is being told by him, which is also interesting. So it's a very interesting comic with very good art. In at number 13 is Sleep, which is a comic that keeps growing on me. Uh, And in fact, I am noticing I'm a little less irritated by the blanketing of gray all over the comic. And it might be because in this issue, along with some little highlights of red, which I don't think works that well, they added some highlights of blue. And I think the highlights of blue really popped for me. Um, it's a very well-timed horror story. I think uh, not too much happens in each issue because we're building up the dread. But and I wonder how long it can go for too, because there's a certain repetitiveness of each night he tries to find another way not to kill everyone in town, which happens during his sleep, and he assumes he's the one responsible. In at number 13 is the final issue of The Thing, written by Tony Fleece and art by Justin Mason with colors by Alex Sinclair. And I think my thoughts on it from the last issue stand. It is good, solid, Bronze Age style fun in terms of the script. The art is it has some good points, but it doesn't quite live up to what you would hope, what I hoped for The Thing. I don't know. It's unfair judgment of mine. Um, but and I like the covers a lot. The cover artist is a different artist, of course. Um, I think all the covers have been done by Nick Bradshaw, if I'm right. Anyway, it was a decent miniseries. It was fun to hark back to like big brawls with lots of supervillains, and with the Kingpin behind it all. That's not a big secret. We knew that early on. Um, Also, a lot of fun was Absolute Flash number 7, which I put in at number 12. We've got the what I consider the good Flash artist back, the one who really. Oh no, it's not the same one. It's Travis Moore. Huh? Who was the one from before that I really liked? Is he the one who did the cover? Nick Robles. Yeah, so Nick Robles is not back, but Travis Moore. Huh. He's different than I remember Travis Moore artwork being. But there's a lot of excitement here. And a lot of cool scenes, and like every issue, it's written by Jeff Lemire. It reads super fast. Um, so that's my only maybe caveat against it is that, and this issue pays off. I think we're going to get a nice payoff from last issue, issue 6, where we got a kind of background story on the rogues, the absolute rogues. And it looks like from the end of this issue that that's going to pay off nicely in the coming issues. Um, but yeah, a lot, really fun to look at and just a really fast read. Pale Knight number 11, really intense, dark kind of book. Somehow, darkness I can handle, but it was starting to get to me now with issue 5. We're in the medieval ages, right after a crusade during the Black Death in England, and it's pretty grim. And there's a lot of stuff with this knight and his squire wandering through the land as they go on one final quest, I guess, or the knight's on one final quest, and the squire's kind of rebelling against him. Um, I kind of, as I started this issue, I was like, how much longer do I want to be reading um, this story of just wandering around through the Black Death? But there was actually a bunch of cool twists and plot developments in this issue 5, and it says to be concluded in issue 6. So that's probably going to be just about the right length for a story like this. It's nothing new to add in terms of my thoughts on the art and the writing, both of which I thought are really cool. Really cool the way the coloring works with this story too. So Pale Knight, which is written by Peter Milligan, but it comes from Mad Cave. Val Rodriguez is the line artist, and Chris Peter the color artist. So interesting stuff. Now, talk about an art. This comic was an art explosion. I'm putting Skinbreaker in at number 10. I'd probably put the art in at number 2 or 3 or maybe number 1. Um, but the story is pretty darn basic from Robert Kirkman. But he even says in the back he wants this, in the back matter, says he wants this to be a artist's book. And I think it's about 30 pages of just some of the most incredible art from David Finch that I've seen in a comic book in a long time. It's lush, detailed, very, it just has a lot of style and sense of motion. It makes this bizarre sort of fantasy version of Stone Age aliens, I guess they are. It just totally come alive. Um, I did, the colors look beautiful from Annalisa Leone, and I think I've liked her colors on some other Robert Kirkman books, but they have a certain aesthetic to them that maybe drowns out the artwork a little bit. And the line art is just so incredible that, so I kind of had mixed feelings on the color. I sort of, flipping through it, I go, oh, look at all this great color. But reading it, I'm like, uh, on some of the pages, I'm a little distracted. I, this is a book I would love if they put out one of those, what do you call it? Naked editions, no, unwrapped editions, whatever. An edition that doesn't have the color, maybe a oversized version. I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming. In at number 9, now we're getting to books that are amongst my favorite comics, and we got 9 to go. I'm really enjoying Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton. Each issue is kind of a standalone story, basically, but they're all about Krypto's progress through his journey around Earth before he hooks up with Superman or Superboy. And I'm loving the art by what's his name, Norton. What's his first name? It's written by Ryan North and artwork by Norton, but I'm not finding the credits. Oh, here we go. Mike Norton. Mike Norton is doing a fantastic job. He's really mastered drawing dogs, making them feel kind of cute but realistic at the same time. And great colors too. Wow, now that I'm flipping through it. Colors by Ian Herring. It's another very fast read, mostly because there's not that much dialogue. I think this will make a great trade to give as a gift to a dog lover. Um, it's the most doggy dog kind of book. In at number 8 is The Return of Orphan and the Five Beasts. So I guess this is volume 2, Bath of Blood. Volume 1 just began the story. The concept is there's this character Orphan who's the last person trained by this incredible martial arts master. And Orphan, but 5 of the master's previous students have become awful, evil uh, people of some sort around the countryside. And so Orphan is going out to, I guess, kill, to stop all of the five beasts. And in the first 4 issues, I think it was 4 issues, or was it 5, of the original Orphan and the Five Beasts, uh, Orphan only got around to kicking the ass of 2 of them. So we've got 3 to go. And in this issue, we don't kick any ass of any new ones. It's in the aftermath of the defeat of the previous one. I can't remember who it was actually. But the thing is, it's been almost a full 4 years since the first 4 issues came out. And that's a long gap. I hope that James Stokoe, who is, a marvelous artist, and who has written, drawn, and colored this, and done the letters, uh, I hope that he had some other way of making a living during those 4 years. Maybe he had to stop and do work for movies or something. Who knows? What happens in the lives of these artists? But the art is incredible, highly idiosyncratic. Um, I would say somewhere between some bizarre alternative underground comic and a manga. That's my best way of describing it. But it's James Stokoe being James Stokoe, and I guess it's okay to spoil it because yeah, no, I won't spoil who the orphan is in case you haven't read the first few. But there's some quiet moments in here that are done really well. I mean, sometimes you wonder when it's an artist writer if he just can do the action, but he wrote the quiet moments and the character moments very well. So it's very promising. I just hope he has time to work on this and finish the story and not make us wait another 4 years for like another miniseries to wrap up the story. In at number 7 is the latest Detective Comics, a new arc beginning, which I guess The Courage That Kills. Um, Batman is trying to solve a mystery, which is great for Detective Comics. The art is by Mikhail Yanin or Janin. I'm not sure how he pronounces his name. Um, who is one of the best DC artists out there, and he's, I don't know, he's hitting new peaks on these Detective Comics books. So I guess I'm not going to say a whole lot more because I don't want to spoil anything. But a really solid detective story, at least judging from this first issue of this arc from Tom Taylor, and you know, just awesome, utterly awesome artwork from Yanin. Um, I think he did the colors too. I can't find, as usual, I can't find the credits, but I'm almost 100% sure he did the colors too. And they're pretty unique colors. There's stuff going on in coloring. I mean, some people continue the way they always have, but there's this and at least one other comic that has totally unusual coloring in this stack. In at number 6, I am putting Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum. I kind of want to put this in at number 1. I think issue number 2. So that I just recently read issue number 3, but I also fairly recently read issue number 2, and this is definitely a top comic book for me. But I was a little less excited by number 3 of the Kryptonite Spectrum, but I'm still super excited for the way that these creators from Ice Cream Man, Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo, and Chris O'Halloran, are approaching Superman as light, fun, 1960s genre sci-fi superhero, but at the same time with a subtle sense of sophistication, um, uh, a certain unease is maybe filtering through from the art, but also just a slightly different touch, but with a total love for that for all the goofiness of Silver Age DC. Um, and I think I said it with the first issue, and I just keep thinking it with these further issues. This is Martin Morazzo is doing a quirky superhero masterpiece, the artist. I just love the way he's approaching all the art in here. And the coloring is great. And as I said, the story is like a silly story told extremely intelligently. Also intelligent, but not silly. It's another favorite of mine, another DC book, Gotham by Gaslight. And I don't think I had a chance to talk about issue two. I'm sorry, issue three, and now we're up to issue four, which is really what issue 10, because there was 6 issues of another Gotham by Gaslight, which really was the first half of this story. This whole Gotham by Gaslight hardly takes place in Gotham at all. It's a worldwide story during this Gaslight age of Gilded Age kind of era of alternate elsewhere kind of DC, and it's all about building up the Justice League and the start of a world full of superheroes and supervillains. And this time around, we get Zod, but with a whole different backstory. It my only and I love the artwork, the storytelling, the coloring. I've said it all before. I've often picked Gotham by Gaslight as my number one book. There were just so many good books this time around. But my only hesitation about it is surely they're not going to be able to give us enough in just 2 more issues. I guess they can wrap up the story with Zod and Lex Luthor, perhaps. But there's so much rich stuff and like a 30,000-year-old backstory about evil Kryptonians coming to Earth, and the destruction of the Martian race at the hands of the Kryptonians, and all of that I want to know way more about. So I hope this is selling really well and that there'll be further miniseries to follow. But there's even more great comics from DC, in fact, with Batman and Robin at number 4 for me. This is the penultimate book in the Batman and Robin year one. Just continues from strength to strength. And there's some things that are done in this issue leading up to the final pages of the issue that strengthen our feeling that Batman and Robin should be together rather than this is kind of like a bad idea for Batman to have a child sidekick and all of that. Um, and just some really intense artwork as always from Chris Samney. So loving this. Not a whole lot new to say. I'm really psyched for the final issue, and I think hopefully they'll put all 12 issues into a really deluxe hardback someday soon. But it gets even better than that. In at number 3 is another super favorite of mine, Monsters. And I went back and I read the last issue 7's the new one. I read all 3 books, and I need to actually dig up all the books. I got a lot more out of it by even just reading 3 issues in a row. Not only does Brooks do these kind of Brooks, what am I saying? Spears do these amazing covers, but the artwork inside is amazing. And I was talking about unusual coloring. The colors that Brooks somehow, I keep saying Brooks, Spears keeps on squeezing out of his digital tools is just stunning. Um, but he's got so many characters and all of them work and all of them seem true to themselves. We flash from character to character, just scene to scene without transitions, and that makes it a harder read and why it probably will be a better read in trade or what I plan to do with all of the issues back to back. But I like getting them in the individual issues, both for the covers and uh, I wouldn't want to read them in any kind of situation like in one of those trades that creates gutter loss. I would definitely double dip on this in terms of like a really nice hardback. But but I definitely feel, but I also get excited to get it month by month too. So I don't think I could give up on this. Okay, in at number 2, I'm putting the whole lot of the Conans, the Savage Sword, the Scourge of the Serpent, and I have to do a mea culpa because I've been complaining recently that I felt they're kind of ruining things by uh, trying to have too much continuity in Conan and too many events. But I'm gonna have to take it back. I was being chastised anyway by Higgy Pop for my opinion on that. But let's see. The previous Conan 24 kind of wrapped up some of the threads and left open more plot threads, but it was really well done. I really liked it. Really great art by Dagino. Um, and then we got kind of a break from the continuity and a story that is both uh, looking at King Conan well into his reign and a kind of summing up of who Conan is and who he's become over time with just this mind-bogglingly good painted issue by Horley. What's Horley's first name? Once again, I embarrass myself by not finding the credits. Alex Horley. It's written by Jim Zub, who does all the best Conan these days. And Alex, who knows how long it's I think it's 40 or more pages of this excellent painted art. And who knows how long Alex Horley had to spend on this one issue. And that Titan was willing to put out, you know, a painted comic book for $6 that's double sized. It's just a treasure. And what really surprised me is I really liked the first issue of Scourge of the Serpent, which currently has 3 storylines that are kind of retellings of certain events that longtime Robert E. Howard and Conan and Call readers will be familiar with, but he's retelling them in ways that add new nuances and are leading to them all coming together. So looking at the work of Robert E. Howard and finding all those connections and doing it well, and with art that I really love too, by the artist Gill. What's Gill's first name? Ironclad Ivan Gill is the artist, and great coloring from Yao Canola. Jao Canola. Canola? And of course, Jim Zub is the writer here, so he continues to deserve a lot of credit. So, uh, contradicting myself completely about complaining about these events ruining Conan, right now they seem to be enriching it. And I really enjoyed this most recent issue of Savage Sword of Conan, which all of the stories had a little bit of the thread of the Scourge of the Serpent issues in it, but without ruining the stories or keeping them from standing on their own. Um, I will say I was disappointed when it seemed like in the main story that Conan was going to get his revenge on this woman who had betrayed him and Belit a while back. And ultimately, that turns out to be not quite what it seems. Then there's this story about this sailor who's very good at boxing, and who is another Robert E. Howard character, and a story about a caveman. I assume this ties into those James Allison stories, who we get stories of his reincarnations. But anyway, really fun issue. Kind of bold of them to make, I think this is the A cover, make the A cover not have Conan on it, but have that boxer, and drawn by Mike Mignola. Is it the A cover? Yeah, it's the A cover. And looks like some more Alex Horley cover. Yeah, more Alex Horley on the cover next issue. So such good stuff there. But I can't stop but loving most in at number 1, Redcoat. It's just I'm in love with Redcoat. So, and this is kind of a one-shot issue that takes place during the burning of Washington, D.C. during the War of 1812. And we get our hero, Simon Pure, having kind of a team up with Dolly Madison, the president's wife. And I'm sure that we'll see more that comes together in this. I think we get the introduction of another character. I don't know if it's a reincarnation of Dolly Madison or something, but at the end of the book. Anyway, uh, just always building on itself. Every story is satisfying to me, and every story seems to enrich the whole story. So, yeah, I am the big Redcoat fan. So that's that. There is one other thing I just wanted to mention. I really enjoyed reading issue 3 of the new history of the DC Universe. I read it out loud to my daughter. She loves hearing about all this stuff. And it's amazing how much of the history of the DC Universe they're cramming into these books because there's only going to be 4 of them. Fantastic cover by Chris Samney. Uh, so yeah, and I think we're in the stories that took place, what, in the 2000s now, like the mid 2000s. So we're rapidly coming into the present by issue 4. Fun. I don't consider it a comic book. I consider it just a book with pictures. It's just some text and some pictures, uh, uh, kind of like a Wikipedia entry with pictures. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy the comic books you're reading, and I'll talk to you again soon. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org to build an Air Force facility at Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. It will host Atari F-15 fighter jets and pilots who will train alongside U.S. troops. We'll get the details in our newscast 2 minutes away on KOPDFM Portland, KOABFM Bend, KRVM FM Pendleton, KOBKFM Baker City, KTVR-FM LaGrande, KOGL-FM Glen Beach, KOAB-FM Lakeview, KTMK-FM Tillamook, KOPFM The Dalles, KOBN-FM Burns, KOPB-AM Eugene, KOAC-AM Corvallis, KOAC-FM Astoria, KHRV-FM River, KETP-FM Enterprise, KOJD-FM John Day. Today's Friday, October 10th. It's 5 o'clock, which means we made it to the weekend. Congrats. This is OPB's All Things Considered. I am just, one person. I certainly do not deserve. This year's Nobel Peace Prize goes to a Venezuelan opposition leader whose fight for democracy forced her into hiding. Also this hour, Israel and Hamas have negotiated a ceasefire